Hey everyone, so I want to talk to you about the Nintendo Switch. In particular, how Nintendo has actually kind of sort of let the system down in 2018. Now, we're going to be talking a lot about games and game droughts, and I want to be careful in speaking about that because the Switch hasn't had game droughts. We're not talking about Wii U era, right? Wii U era is really the all-time game drought era for Nintendo. We're talking, here's a bunch of games at launch, here's nothing till spring with Lego City Undercover, and then wait 6 months and then you get Pikmin 3. No, we're talking about a platform that has actually seen quite a bit of support, yet Nintendo has still let this system down. Not me personally, but this system down in 2018. So reality is that Nintendo Switch has really only moved about 4 million units this year. This is based on quarterly reports, and then obviously the end of fiscal year report Nintendo did for ending in March, and then obviously from April to June, the new fiscal quarterly report we have where it sold about 1.88 million units. And if you combine that with the sales of January up until April, you have roughly 4 million in sales for this year. And that's a problem, not so much for me, because I already have a Switch, but for Nintendo, because Nintendo did something unprecedented in the first year. This system rose to a meteoric level, but it did that on the back of 4 system sellers. That's right. For the first time, I think, maybe ever, Nintendo had 4 system sellers land in a single year. They launched with Breath of the Wild, now the best-selling Zelda game ever, about to cross 10 million in sales just on Switch. They then followed it up a month later with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and you'd be like, oh, but it's a Wii U port. But it's also a Wii U port that's moved over 10 million units. So we're talking about a game that clearly blew up on Switch and clearly was a system seller. Then, just a few months later, they gave us Splatoon 2. Again, another best-selling game on the platform, moving 6, almost 7 million units to date, still in the top charts in Japan every single week. Then, they ended the year, in October, mind you, with Super Mario Odyssey in terms of system sellers. That is the best-selling game on the platform, moving almost 12 million units. So Nintendo, in the first less than a year on the market, really, gave us 4 big system-selling games. And then they gave us a bunch in between. The ARMS of the world, the Xenoblade Chronicles 2, obviously we had the third-party support with Skyrim, and Fire Emblem Warriors, and LA Noire, and Doom, and a bunch of indie games and all that stuff. There was, Golf Story, an exclusive indie game. Like, we got a lot of great games in 2017. But then the calendar turned. And while Nintendo has supported this system in 2018, in fact, Nintendo's given us 4 major, semi-major games, at least maybe 5 if you want to count Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. There was Nintendo Labo, there was Kirby Star Allies, there was Mario Tennis Aces, the aforementioned Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, and then Bayonetta 1 and 2. So, a few ports. Oh, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze too. Let's not rule out that one. So, the reality is, those are all nice games. Whether it was a Wii U port or a new title, they're all nice. But none of them were system sellers. And I feel like I wanted to cut Nintendo some slack because I think they thought, for a brief moment anyways, that Nintendo Labo was going to be that system seller. That Nintendo Labo was going to sell a bunch of this. That this cardboard piano would somehow lead to 4 or 5 million sales of Labo, and thus selling a few extra million Switches. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Now, why didn't it happen? Well, Labo is its own story, and we might make a video on that someday about why it's not as big as it could be. And Nintendo is fluffing their numbers right now, right? That they've touted that it has sold 1.39 million units, which probably is well short of their own expectations on its own, but also is a combination of the Variety Kit and the Robot Kit. No one's really talking about Labo that much today. I know they still updated. They added Mario Kart 8 support. Now they have the vehicle kit coming, like in September or something. But the thing is Labo didn't really sell that well. Labo is better stocked in most stores than the Switch itself. And that's not because the Switch is necessarily selling out, but it's because the Switch is at least selling. A lot of stores I go to, it looks like they have the exact same Labo boxes in the exact same spot for the past few months because people just are not picking up Labo. It didn't do what Nintendo hoped, right? Nintendo advertised Labo to be this blue ocean strategy to kind of be the next Wii Sports, to grab in a new consumer base. Instead, it was really just the current Switch consumer base that even showed interest in it and ended up buying it. It did not move units, both when it launched and currently. So, you fast forward and we see excellent sales for things like Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, sold 1.4 million units as well. But again, 1.4 million were people that already had this. Very few people went to pick out a Switch for Labo or Donkey Kong, or even the best-selling Mario Tennis initial launch ever at 1.39 million. Barely anyone picked this up to play that. So, reality is, we are now in the 8th month of 2018. 8 months in, and we have yet to see one system-selling game on the level of Breath of the Wild, on the level of Mario Kart, on the level of Splatoon, or on the level of Super Mario Odyssey. And we kind of could see this coming because we've never had Nintendo do that all in 1 year. Maybe they blew their load all in 1 year. Maybe Odyssey should have got delayed and Splatoon should have got pushed to winter. I don't know. But what I do know is that just because we're getting Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee and Smash in November and December doesn't necessarily mean that it's suddenly going to take this platform to hit Nintendo's projections of 20 million units in the current fiscal year. 20 million. They're less than 2 million into that. They have to sell 18.22 million units from basically the start of July until the end of March. And while I have no doubt that the combination of Pokemon and Smash could move maybe 10 million of those units, where's the other 8 million in sales coming from? What other system sellers are there? It took 4 system sellers last year for Switch to hit about 17 million, in a span of 13 months, including the launch month in there. So it took 4 massive console-selling games to hit 17, but they only have 2, and they expect that to get this. And those 2 are coming after most of the fiscal season's over, when you're well into quarter 3, heading into quarter 4. Reality is that Nintendo has dropped the ball. I love Nintendo Switch. I don't want people coming out of this video thinking, man, that Nate guy from Nintendo Prime, he really hates Switch. I don't. And I don't even think Switch's lineup has been lackluster for me. I have over 50 games on this thing. 50 games! Half of those games bought this year. I clearly am enthralled and thrilled and have plenty to play. But that doesn't speak to the ability for it to sell systems. I already own it. All these titles I have talked about, even Dark Souls Remastered coming out, Crash Insane Trilogy, Starlink Battle for Atlas, those are all nice games, but they don't sell systems. Those are games you release between system sellers to help maintain sales. But the thing is, without a big system seller in tow over the past 8 months, sales have started to go like this. And that's a problem. And yes, Pokemon and Smash, it's going to skyrocket. How much? I don't know. Smash might actually outsell Pokemon because there is a huge chunk of that core fan base of Pokemon that's not happy with Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. You're wrong, but it's okay. You're not really wrong. Everyone's free to have their own opinions, but is it really going to bring in that new audience that they're hoping it can grab? Maybe. And maybe that alone, maybe Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee is going to move 20 million, 30 million units, and then an additional 10 to 15 million Switches on its own. It is entirely possible, and I'm going to give Nintendo some credit to thinking that maybe that's going to be what makes this system blow up, but I'm not really willing to put all my eggs in the Smash and Pokemon basket, if we're being completely honest. Nintendo needs more system sellers, and it's not because I need a reason to buy more games, but it's because people that aren't me need a reason to buy a Switch. And right now, Nintendo's not giving it to them. When I think about what Nintendo has left that they could release for system sellers, I do think Fire Emblem Three Houses, if it is presented well and accepted well, is a system-selling type game. Ever since Fire Emblem Awakening, the Fire Emblem series has blown up, and I think it is now reached the level of being a system seller. It could move a couple million Switches on its own. You look at other IPs they have. Animal Crossing, that's not out yet. That's going to be a system seller. If they hit with Fire Emblem, Animal Crossing during the summer next year, end it with the new generation of Pokemon, sure. 2019 is looking great. I think it could use maybe one more system seller in there to try to match 2017, but then maybe it shouldn't. Maybe they should delay that system seller to 2020 to keep it going. But what is that system seller? What else does Nintendo have to sell systems? Some might argue Metroid Prime 4. But Metroid games have never been system sellers. If you actually look at the history of console sales compared to the release of Metroid games, even Metroid Prime, which is the best-selling Metroid game ever, over 4 million units, almost 4.5 million units sold of Metroid Prime, the first game in the Metroid Prime series, the GameCube sales didn't really see a bump when Metroid Prime came out. It just didn't occur because Metroid is that kind of game that is bought by people who already generally own the platform. Now, some of you are going to argue I would pick up a Switch for Metroid. I would pick up a Switch for, say, 1080 snowboarding or Snowboard Kids or Wave Race, or if an F-Zero came out. Like, I get that. There are people that would pick it up, but a vast majority of the time you're not really seeing a real good sales bump. Octopath Traveler came out. Fantastic game in July. But the sales bump in Japan for the Switch, a few thousand units. A few thousand units? Nintendo wants Switch to go 100,000 units. That's a sales bump. That's a system seller. But it didn't. Now, maybe it did bump sales here in the United States. We don't know. Maybe Octopath Traveler is a system seller, but I doubt it. It's a JRPG. Generally, we're talking about a game that fits really well in that in-between space, that ARMS, that Xenoblade Chronicle 2, all those kind of games. Like, it fits really well in that space. But it feels like that's all we've gotten this year. And as I said, I can give Nintendo a little bit of a pass on Labo, but I'm having a hard time giving them a pass now. Because if you think about it, the next system-selling game, the one that we at least think is going to move some units, even if it's just an extra million, is Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, which comes out on November 16th. November. The last system-selling game came out in October of 2017 in Super Mario Odyssey. If my math is correct, that's over a year. Over a year between system sellers. That's a problem. Again, this is not a Wii U drought issue. This is a system selling drought issue. Nintendo, as Sony has come out and admitted in interviews, Sony will never match the sheer output of published games Nintendo has. Nintendo publishes a ton of games, whether they make it internally or through partnerships with other companies. Bayonetta 3, just as an example. But reality is, Sony focuses less on publishing the most games and more on the games they do have being super high quality system sellers. And Nintendo kind of lost its focus after a great first year for this platform by not having more system sellers lined up. It is awesome they came out the gate firing, but now we've hit the calm, hopefully before an eventual 2019 storm. I realize Sony didn't really give a lot of heavy hitters in its first couple of years. It coasted on bashing Microsoft and Xbox One and obviously grabbing the hearts of those consumers while having all that AAA third-party support. Nintendo doesn't have all that AAA third-party support. They don't have the faith of consumers compared to other products out there. What Nintendo has is their own, themselves basically. They have themselves and their own system sellers, and it sucks when you reach a year like 2018 where it's just blah. Anyways, folks, you let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. Again, love my Switch. Perfectly happy with the games this year. I have no complaints about it for me, but I do recognize that Nintendo did really drop the ball this year. They came out the gates firing and then dropped the ball. They'll probably come back strong in 2019. I would just like to see a Nintendo that with all of their development teams, hopefully all of their development teams, making games just for Switch, instead of dividing between two platforms, all of it just on Switch, both handheld teams and home console teams, that we could maybe do away with these years where we're just getting the in-between games and nothing else that's major. Even, I would argue, even a new Super Mario Brothers kind of style game could have potentially been a system seller for this year. And it would have been perfectly acceptable after Odyssey came out. But you know what? It didn't happen. Anyways, folks, I'm Nathaniel Rovagents from Nintendo Prime. You let me know down in the comments below what you wish Nintendo would have did differently with this year. I understand someone's gonna tap away down there, but we don't even know all the games coming out this year. If Nintendo had a major system selling game coming out the rest of 2018, we'd already know about it. We knew about all of the system sellers last year way early, most of them before the Switch even came out. I think all of them, actually. We knew about Odyssey before the system came out. We knew about Breath of the Wild. We knew about Splatoon 2. And, we knew about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So we literally knew about all the system sellers before this came out. And we knew about Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee since, way back in June now, a couple months back. And we've known about Smash, that it was coming at least earlier this year as well. So I figure if there was more system sellers coming, we'd know about it. They're not going to pack anymore for the rest of this year. If we get anything else, it'll be something like a Pikmin 4. And as much as I love Pikmin, it's just not a system seller. It's another tweener game like Mario Tennis Aces. A high-quality tweener game, but just not the thing that's going to make this hit 20 million units and outsell the first year on the market. All right, folks. Man, it's been a tough video. I don't like being critical of Nintendo. If you can't tell, I've been so happy with this platform, but as I sat back looking at the financials after all of my reporting on the MPD and my reporting on Nintendo's financial stuff, I'm like, you know what? There is something amiss here, and we just had to talk about that. All right, folks. I'm not going to actually... I was going to say I'm going to play some games, but I'm actually going to go edit this video. All right, folks. Catch you guys in the next one.